The voice cuts through the void, sharp and pointed. He's checking in on Nick's progress while navigating the heavy silence of their shared situation. The system recognizes his presence now. The line between human and host is blurring as the entity's authority takes hold. The weight of the choice sits heavy in his chest as he stares at the threshold. One step forward changes everything. There's no going back to his old life now. The words are clipped and hollow, stripped of any personal pride. He isn't just taking orders anymore, he's becoming an instrument for something else entirely. The numbers are mounting, confirming that he isn't the only one carrying this burden. He can feel the scale of the hunt expanding with every new name on the list. The question hangs heavy in the air, stripping away any pretense of safety. It's not just an inquiry, it's a demand for him to face the reality of what he's become. The system finally stops playing games with vague promises. Something massive is brewing, and it's time to move. The voice on the other end isn't offering any comfort. It's just laying out the new rules of his existence. He's no longer a victim of the situation, he's being drafted into the hunt. The offer of help feels less like a lifeline and more like a cold calculation. They aren't deciding his fate, they're just putting it on a shelf until the next move is ready. The directive hits like a cold slap to the face. No more training wheels, it's time to start hunting. The scope of the hunt just got real. It's not just about survival anymore, it's about clearing every single target on this map. The news just hit the wire like a physical blow. The panic isn't contained to one city anymore, it's spreading across the entire map. The words hang in the air, heavy with a hollow sense of gratitude. He knows this isn't a thank you, it's an initiation. He stands firm against the looming threat. He isn't just hoping to win anymore, he's certain of the victory. The quiet of the neighborhood feels like a lie. Somewhere behind those glowing windows, people are sleeping, completely unaware that the hunt has already begun. He can barely keep his head up under the weight of it all. One look at him tells you exactly how much the transformation has already taken. The question hangs in the air like a threat. He's testing to see if I'm still standing or just waiting for a reason to fall. The impact was way too much for his body to handle. He's barely conscious, struggling to process the sheer force of the blow while someone screams at her for overdoing it. The silence is deafening as reality sets in. He's staring into the void, realizing his old life isn't just dying, it's already gone. The realization hits like a physical blow to the chest. That's not just fear, it's the sound of his sanity fracturing under the weight of the thing inside him. He's pushing through the agony, forcing a defiant grin even as his body starts to buckle. He doesn't care how much it hurts, he just needs to keep moving. Memory is failing him, slipping away like smoke under the pressure of the transformation. Still, he finds a jagged sort of resolve in the haze. He's ready to do whatever comes next. She offers a mocking grin, acknowledging the damage she just dealt with a casual shrug. It's a graceful exit for now, but the underlying threat remains sharp. He tries to play it off as just another part of the training, but his heavy breathing tells a different story. She watches him with those piercing eyes, her grin suggesting she knows exactly how much he's struggling to keep his grip. He's starting to question if the surge of power is actually healing him or just masking the damage. She nudges him, a mocking gesture that highlights how much he's still trying to play it cool. The physical toll is starting to override his focus. He can barely keep his eyes open while that damn thing keeps pushing him further into the abyss. She's grinning like she's enjoying the chaos, but that look in her eyes says she knows exactly how much this is costing him. She's trying to play it off as a warning, but she can see him reaching his breaking point. The physical toll is starting to fade into something more manageable. His body is finally learning how to process the power, turning every scar into proof of his survival. He's not just asking for training anymore. He knows that if he doesn't master these tools immediately, he won't survive the next wave. The adrenaline starts to fade, leaving nothing but the raw, stinging reality of what he's become. He can feel the entity's presence pulsing just beneath his skin, demanding he acknowledge the change. He's pushing himself too hard, and his body is finally starting to revolt against the strain. She can hear the internal gears grinding, a warning that he needs to back off before something snaps. She waves goodbye, the casual tone of her words clashing with the heavy silence of the woods. He watches her walk away, trying to ignore the hollow ache of the distance growing between them. The threat isn't just coming, it's already here. The rules have changed and the real game is finally starting. She stands perfectly still, a ghostly figure amidst the noise. Every breath feels like a calculated move in a game he doesn't fully understand yet. The weight of the choice settles in like lead. He's stopped looking for an exit, now he just has to endure the consequences. Training isn't just about survival anymore, it's about mastery. He needs to stay in constant contact with her if he wants to keep his edge. The casual tone of those texts is a lie, a desperate attempt to keep things normal while everything else falls apart. He's staring at the demands for his presence as if they were just social invites instead of ultimatums. The threat isn't just coming from the outside anymore. It's standing right in front of him, demanding he finally embrace the monster inside. He isn't just watching his growth, she's savoring every agonizing step of his evolution. The training wheels are off, and now it's time to see if he can actually handle the heat. The hesitation is gone now. He stopped mourning what he lost and started accepting exactly what he has to become. Every step feels heavy, like the ground is trying to pull him down into the dirt. He just needs to keep moving forward, even if he doesn't know where the path ends. He barely manages to catch the blow, his muscles tensing against her strike. She's impressed, but he can't afford to let her see him sweat. The impact vibrates through his bones, but he holds the line. He's finding his rhythm in the chaos, turning every defense into a statement of survival. The grip is desperate, almost frantic. He doesn't just grab, he anchors himself against whatever is trying to pull him under. He lunges forward, eyes wide with a frantic, desperate realization. He isn't just making a move, he's trying to force her to see exactly what's happening. The veil finally rips. He isn't just sensing it anymore, he can see exactly what's waiting for him. Every drop of sweat feels like a weight dragging him into the dirt. He can barely feel his own skin anymore. It's just meat and bone being rewritten by something else. The connection flickers, cutting the world into fragments of data and void. Something is trying to break through the noise. Every muscle is screaming, but he has to hold it together. If he lets go for even a second, the thing inside him takes over completely. The transition isn't just internal anymore, it's rewriting his very chemistry. Every jagged edge of this new reality starts to cut deeper into his old life. She catches his gaze with a sharp grin, mocking how close he came to dying. He just stands there, processing the fact that his survival was barely a fluke. The steady rhythm of footsteps on the grass feels like a countdown. Every stride deeper into this territory makes the reality of their pursuit sink in. She recognizes his grit. It takes a special kind of obsession to endure this much pain without breaking. He isn't just fighting for survival anymore, he's hunting. Every strike is fueled by the growing desperation to end this cycle before it consumes him entirely. The entity isn't just watching, it's mocking his hesitation. Every second he spends clinging to his old self is a second he loses the fight against what's inside him. The transformation isn't just changing his body, it's feeding something inside him. He can feel the power taking root, and for the first time he realizes exactly how much of himself he's willing to trade for it. He stares right through me, stripping away every lie I've told myself about my own weakness. He isn't just looking at my face, he's hunting for the spark of something dangerous hidden inside. He mocks his progress like it's some pathetic milestone. Even his desperate attempts to control the power are just a joke to her. The armor is failing him as fast as his body is giving out. Every jagged tear in the fabric is a reminder that his skin isn't meant to contain what's inside. The validation hits like a physical weight, cutting through the exhaustion of his training. He's finally starting to see the results of every agonizing moment spent mastering this curse. One isn't enough to keep him together. He needs more than just a quick fix if he wants to survive what's coming next. He isn't interested in his pain. To her, he's just a project that needs more pressure. The training is moving past the basics and into something far more dangerous. That smile isn't friendly. It's a predator savoring the moment before the kill. He wants to see if I'll break under the pressure of what's coming next. He isn't just surviving anymore, he's trying to seize control before the thing inside him takes over completely. It's no longer about hiding from the power, it's about mastering it. He stops trying to negotiate with the power and finally embraces the aggression of it. The fear is gone, replaced by a raw, jagged defiance. She gives him a dismissive shrug, but he doesn't have time to argue. He needs to move now. Every muscle is screaming under the strain of the surge. He isn't just running, he's reacting to the raw, jagged power and the desperate need to close the distance. He barely has time to process the presence before it hits him like a physical weight. The sheer audacity of this intruder leaves him breathless, his mind racing to identify the threat. The pain is becoming background noise now. He doesn't care about the cost anymore, he just needs to move. The air doesn't just move, it shatters. Every muscle fibers snap as he unleashes a strike that carves through the very atmosphere. He barely managed to block it, but the sting of the blade is still fresh. That smirk isn't for him, it's a taunt from the voice behind the mask. She's practically beaming now, mocking his struggle with that sharp, knowing grin. She wants him to focus on the win, even if it's just a tiny victory over his own losing grip. The voice is smooth, almost mocking, dripping with a twisted kind of respect. He isn't just impressed by what Kane did, he's acknowledging that the kid actually managed to survive his own skin for this long. 1 inch to the left and it was over. He can still feel the phantom sting of the impact, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped animal. He barely survived that exchange, but the realization is starting to sink in. The guy he faced wasn't just testing him, he was trying to end him. He's trying to play it cool, but the confusion in her eyes gives him away. If she doesn't realize what just happened was a reflex and not a choice, things are about to get complicated. The raw power it unleashes is becoming less of a catastrophe and more of a controlled weapon. He's learning to ride the explosion instead of letting it consume him. She watches him with an unsettling grin, acknowledging his progress toward mastering the chaos inside him. Then she drops the act, finally offering herself a name. He knows this isn't their first encounter. The recognition hangs heavy in the air, a grim acknowledgement that the game is moving forward. He doesn't bother with the pleasantries of an introduction. He just lays out his role in this blood-soaked mess. He's trying to play it cool, but that desperate edge in his voice gives him away. He knows exactly how high the stakes are now. The words catch in his throat, barely making it past his lips. He's trying to find the strength to speak while the weight of the transformation crushes his composure. He looks at them with a hollow stare, questioning the morality of their actions. The reality hits him. To them, he isn't a person anymore, he's just another target on a checklist. The contact is sudden, mocking, a physical reminder that he's being toyed with. He can barely process the insult as the sting of the strike registers against his skin. She leans in, that mocking grin cutting through his focus like a blade. The message is clear. He's just a pawn in a game he doesn't fully understand yet. He's digging into his resolve, trying to shut out the noise of the past and the fear of what's coming. It doesn't matter anymore, he just has to survive the next second. She looks right through him, cutting through the noise of his internal chaos. It's a heavy reminder that despite the power rotting his insides, he hasn't lost his humanity just yet. The sheer scale of it hits like a physical weight. It's not just a symbol, it's an altar for everything he's about to lose. He stands before her, his voice steady despite the weight of what he's carrying. The report is simple, but the reality of his new role just became official. The opulence of the hall feels heavy, like a gilded cage. Every flickering light serves as a reminder that some secrets are hidden in plain sight. The sheer scale of this place hits like a physical weight. It's not just a building, it's a monument to someone else's power, and he's just a speck in the middle of it. The voice is smooth, almost too welcoming for someone in this line of work. It's not just a greeting, it's an invitation into something much deeper than they're prepared for. The system's gratitude feels less like a reward and more like a chilling acknowledgement of his new status. It's a polite way of saying he's finally started doing exactly what it wants him to do. He's trying to play it cool, but those scars tell a different story. She can see right through the act. The training isn't just making him stronger, it's tearing him apart. He grits his teeth against the mounting exhaustion, forcing himself to stay present. He knows he can't afford to fall behind. Every second of weakness is a step closer to being left behind by the others. He plays it off with a casual grin, but that look in his eyes suggests he's reading much more than just my surface-level words. He's trying to sound supportive, but the underlying pressure of his concern feels like a calculated move. He's trying to brush off the comment, but the sweat tells a different story. He's barely holding onto his composure while the sheer intensity of the moment threatens to boil over. He tries to play it off with a grin, but that nervous sweat gives away how much he's actually gambling. He's forcing himself to trust the words being fed to him. He knows she's watching him, weighing his every move against the ghosts of his past. He can't hide the fact that he's inherited her stubbornness, a trait that might just be what keeps him alive. He's trying to hold it together, but the pressure is starting to crack his resolve. The apology feels hollow even to him, a desperate plea for some kind of leniency that doesn't exist. Time is slipping away, and every second of hesitation feels like a weight on his chest. He can feel the pressure building, demanding he stop waiting and start acting. The safety of waiting is gone. He's done praying for a miracle and is finally stepping into the fire. The weight of his new reality is starting to sink in. He doesn't just need to survive the power anymore, he has to master it. Rob's voice cuts through the tension, turning his survival into a manual task. He has to start thinking like a soldier if he wants those bandages to actually do something. He realizes these aren't just perks, they're markers on a checklist. They see him as a versatile tool, easy to shape into whatever weapon the hunt requires next. He's pushing him to look at his own trauma as a blueprint. If he wants to master the beast inside, he has to stop fearing its movements and start mimicking them. He grips the shard like it's the only thing keeping him grounded. That voice isn't just inside his head anymore, it's demanding he acknowledge what this power actually is. He's starting to realize that this power isn't just a tool he can control, it's a wild animal waiting for an excuse to take over. If he wants to survive, he has to stop fighting the beast and start commanding it. He's testing his resolve against her challenge. If he can mirror her movements perfectly, it proves he's finally finding his footing in this twisted game. He isn't just talking to himself anymore. He's trying to find a crack in the monster's armor. He needs to know if there's still a soul left under all that power. He's desperate for a roadmap through this nightmare. He needs to know if there's any way to master these bindings before they swallow him whole. The mask finally shatters, and the truth hits like a physical weight. He's not just surviving anymore, he's accepting the role they carved out for him. The realization hits like a physical blow. He isn't just hearing voices anymore, he's finally listening to the truth buried inside. The parasite isn't just a passenger anymore, it's starting to take root. It knows how hard it is to carve out a home inside a fresh body, and it's beginning to make its demands clear. He's finally starting to understand that this power isn't a gift, it's an investment. Every ounce of strength he pulls from the entity comes at a cost he hasn't fully calculated yet. The sheer scale of it hits him all at once. He's not just seeing something new, he's witnessing a reality he wasn't prepared to face. The sound is visceral, a low, predatory growl that vibrates in his bones. It isn't just a noise, it's the entity waking up inside him. He feels it clawing at the back of his mind, a raw, jagged presence that doesn't just want to be used, it wants to be unleashed. The question hangs heavy in the air, mocking his desperate attempts to keep a lid on the chaos inside. The entity's voice drips with cold mockery, testing his resolve in real time. It doesn't care about his struggle, it only wants to see if he can break free before it takes over completely. The panic hits like a physical weight, paralyzing his lungs. He can feel his grip on reality slipping as the sheer scale of the situation crushes his composure. The entity isn't just a parasite anymore, it's a predator playing a game with his autonomy. It's giving him a choice, but the offer feels more like a trap than an invitation. The entity isn't just whispering anymore, it's screaming right in his ear. He has to decide if he'll let the power crush him or finally start using it. The mockery cuts deep. It's not just a challenge anymore, it's an insult to his will to survive. The mocking praise hits like a physical blow. He can feel the shift in the air, the moment where his survival instinct stops being a shield and starts becoming a weapon. The pain is constant, but it's a familiar weight now. This nightmare is just another scar on a body already covered in them. The beast isn't just watching, it's tasting his resolve like bait. It offers a hint, but in this world, every gift comes with a jagged edge. The realization hits him like a physical weight. He isn't just hosting a monster, he's becoming its vessel. He finally understands that if he can do it, so can the things they want him to hunt. The entity's voice echoes inside his skull, a jagged demand for submission. It's time to stop fighting the power and start wielding it like a weapon. The internal pressure is reaching a breaking point. He isn't just fighting the enemy anymore, he's fighting to keep his own mind from fracturing under the weight of the power. He stops fighting the internal tug-of-war and finally leans into the heat. He's done apologizing to the monster inside. It's his body now, and he's taking the wheel. He grits his teeth against the internal static, forcing his will into every fiber of his being. He isn't just fighting an enemy anymore. He's reclaiming his own skin from the parasite inside. The weight of the pact finally settles in his bones, a heavy, suffocating realization. He's done fighting the parasite, he just has to survive what it turns him into. He doesn't care what they think anymore, the choice is already made. He's done hiding behind excuses and is finally ready to let the power take hold. The quiet of the coast feels heavier tonight, like the world is holding its breath before something breaks. Somewhere in this sprawling web of lights, the hunt is already moving. He keeps his voice low, the weight of the silence hanging heavy between them. That lack of contact is starting to feel less like a coincidence and more like a warning. He knows he can't hand this over to anyone else. If he wants to keep his soul intact, he has to be the one to take the first step. The chaos inside him isn't a storm anymore, it's a tool. He finally feels the leash tighten around the beast, turning his fear into something he can actually use. He knows the luxury of rest is a death sentence now. Every second he spends hesitating is just another opening for something to tear him apart. The internal roar of the entity is fading into a haunting silence. Now, the only thing left to face is the reality of what comes next. The raw power feels heavy, almost suffocating, as it pulses through his veins. He stares at the chaos within him, trying to find a single purpose for this violent gift. He tries to focus on the simple mechanics of movement, but the weight of his own resolve starts to fracture. The internal voice cuts him off before he can even finish the thought. He isn't just feeling the power anymore, he's starting to enjoy the taste of it. That grin says everything. The monster inside is finally finding its voice. The weight of the reality hits him like a physical blow. He isn't just a victim anymore, he's a walking catastrophe for everyone nearby. The internal conflict finally snaps. He stops fighting the monster inside and decides to weaponize it. The realization hits like a physical weight. He isn't just hosting this thing anymore. He has to master it or let it consume him. He stops fighting the pulse of the entity and lets it flow through his limbs. It's not just a tool anymore, it's a part of him now. The air screams with the weight of it. He stopped fighting the surge and is finally letting the raw power take hold. The internal noise finally cuts to silence. He stops fighting the fear and decides to own the monster inside. The surge of power hits his nervous system like an electric shock. He doesn't just feel it, he owns it now. The air screams as he unleashes it. He isn't just tapping into the power anymore, he's letting it roar. He stops trying to contain the beast and lets it take the wheel. Every muscle fibers screams as he finally embraces the raw, violent pulse of the power within. He stops fighting the internal noise and finally lets the heat take over. He isn't just accepting the power anymore, he's claiming it. The sensation isn't jarring anymore. It feels like a missing piece finally clicking into place. He's stopping the fight against the transformation and letting the weight of the power settle in. He realizes the weight isn't dragging him down anymore, it's just there. It feels less like a cage and more like a tool finally fitting his grip. He stands there, dwarfed by the sheer presence of the man towering over him. The weight of that acknowledgement hits like a physical blow. He's no longer just a kid trying to survive. He's starting to look like something they can actually use. The mockery stings, but he doesn't let it break his focus. He accepts the cold reality that survival now depends on how well he can play their game. The name hits like a physical jolt. He can't believe they actually showed up tonight. He looks like he'd rather be anywhere else than dealing with her constant hovering. He knows she's a handful, but her persistence is the only thing keeping him grounded right now. He's playing it off like he actually has a choice in being here. It's a lie. He's just hiding from the inevitable fallout of what he's done. The sheer scale of it hits him all at once, the weight of the power he's forced to carry. He isn't just holding a weapon anymore, he's becoming one. You can feel their eyes judging his every move. One wrong step, one slip in focus, and he's no longer a student, he's just another casualty. He tries to play it cool, but the reality of his new arsenal is sinking in. Wrapping wounds with cloth isn't exactly a combat strategy, and he knows he needs a better plan. The command hangs in the air, heavy and clinical. He isn't a student anymore, he's a tool being calibrated for a purpose he can't yet fathom. He isn't just testing his strength, she's mocking his lack of control. If he can't crush this stone without the power spiraling out of bounds, he's nothing more than a ticking time bomb. The weight of the task feels impossible, like trying to move a mountain with a toothpick. He stares at the stone, his mind racing to find any spark of power that won't consume him in the process. The sheer scale of that raw power is starting to settle in like a bruise. He's realizing just how much of a monster he's capable of becoming when the leash lets go. The pressure is suffocating. He needs to stop thinking about the cost and just start making it work. He feels the raw weight of it now, no longer just an ornament, but a weapon he's forced to master. Every crack in the stone mirrors the fracture in his own resolve. The stone feels solid, a heavy piece of reality in his palms. He isn't just holding it, he's claiming it. The sheer force isn't just physical, it's an explosion of raw, jagged intent. He stops fighting the power and lets the destruction take over. He's breathing hard, the adrenaline finally cooling into a dazed realization. It wasn't as much of a struggle as he'd braced himself for, but the victory still leaves him reeling. The sheer scale of it hits him like a physical blow. He can't wrap his head around how they actually pulled this off. He's starting to realize his physical limits aren't just hurdles, they're benchmarks. Every piece of gear he wears is now a calculated step toward becoming a viable weapon. He stares at the grotesque growth, trying to distance himself from the horror of its existence. It's no longer a parasite, it's just another part of his body now. He's finally starting to believe it, that he won't just survive this training, but actually master the chaos inside him. It's a long road ahead, but for the first time, the path forward feels less like a death sentence and more like a mission. He hits a wall of exhaustion, the adrenaline finally draining out of his system. It's time to shut down and let the silence take over. He's laying it all out. The rules of this game are simple. You either prove you're worth the investment or you're just another casualty in his way. The weight of his new reality settles in as he walks away from the only life he ever knew. He isn't just a survivor anymore. He's part of a hunt that spans much further than his hometown. The realization hits like a physical blow. It's not just some monster, it's something that shares his very essence. Silence settles like a heavy weight, stripping away every distraction. In this void, there's nowhere left to run from what he's becoming. The scale of the world just got a lot bigger. He's no longer hiding in the shadows. He's standing right on the edge of everything that's coming for him. The city feels hollow tonight, just another stretch of asphalt where things go to hide. Something's off about those shapes on the curb. They don't belong in a normal neighborhood. The realization hits like a physical weight. They aren't just watching him anymore. They're measuring exactly how much of a threat he's becoming. He's barely holding it together while they talk over his head. They need him to stop dwelling on the past and lock in on what's right in front of them. The weight of the warning hangs in the air like static. He stares into the void, trying to calculate just how much big actually means. He leans into the shared suspicion of the moment, his voice barely carrying over the wind. If this is actually one of the originals, everything they knew just changed. The sheer scale of the thing looming before them makes it hard to breathe. He can't tell if he's looking at a god or a nightmare, but he knows they have to find out. The scale of the threat isn't just local anymore, it's spreading like a contagion. They aren't just monitoring threats now, they're preparing for a full-scale mobilization. He's done trying to outrun the inevitable. Now, he just has to make sure he can handle whatever is coming next. He doesn't need to say much anymore. The submission in his voice is heavy, a cold acceptance that he's no longer a man with a choice, but a weapon with an order. The weight of the duty is heavy now, but it's clear they aren't just fighting for survival anymore. They're stepping up to be the shield this city desperately needs. He needs to get in touch with Duh before the silence becomes unbearable. He can't let that guy spiral into a panic while he's out here alone. The silence of the empty street hits different when you're waiting for something to crawl out of the shadows. He grips his phone like a lifeline, eyes wide as he tries to process the reality of what just happened. The heavy thud of those boots on the pavement tells him everything he needs to know. Someone is standing right in front of him, and they aren't here to talk. The blue light from the screen is the only thing keeping him grounded right now. He's searching for answers, even if the truth starts to sting. The distance feels like a physical weight between them. He knows that once they step forward, there's no turning back from this choice. The casual greeting feels like a trap. He can't tell if this is a friendly encounter or just another hunter closing in. The air is heavy with something sharp and unwelcome. He doesn't know if this stranger is a contact or just another shadow in the hunt. He's staring into something that makes his pulse spike. It's not just fear, it's the realization that he's no longer looking at a monster, but at his own reflection in the glass of the hunt. The high is starting to override the pain. He's not just enduring the power anymore, he's beginning to crave it. He catches that edge of recognition in their gaze. It's not just praise, it's an acknowledgement of the predator he's becoming. The air feels heavy, like it's thickening around him. He can feel the pulse of the key beneath his skin, demanding he focus on the threat right in front of him. The command hits like a physical blow, stripping away any room for hesitation. He doesn't have time to process the threat, only the cold reality of the blade inches from his skin. The blade bites deep, turning a desperate defense into a gory reality. He can feel the heat of the blood as his muscles seize in pure shock. The weight of the uniform feels heavier than it did yesterday. It's no longer just clothes, it's a shroud for what he's becoming. He stares at them like he's seeing a ghost, his mind fracturing under the sudden realization. The sheer scale of what they just became is finally sinking in. The blade bites deep, and that final accusation hangs in the air like poison. It's not just a wound to his body, it's the weight of every choice leading to this moment. He's standing there taking the hit like it doesn't even register. They can see the truth now. He isn't just some kid anymore, he's something far more dangerous. He doesn't care about the guilt trip. After everything they've put him through, this tiny moment of confrontation is just another noise he has to filter out. He's done playing along with their games. One final dismissive remark and he's walking away from the noise. The warning hits like a physical weight against his spine. He can feel the heat of the aura radiating off his skin, a constant reminder that he's no longer alone in his own body. The speed is terrifying, a blur of motion he can barely track with his eyes. They recognize that fact immediately, knowing exactly what kind of power a key holder carries. He feels the parasite surging beneath his skin, every strand of that crimson energy demanding he let go of control. He grits his teeth, forcing the power into a weapon instead of letting it swallow him whole. He knows he can't back down now. This isn't just about survival anymore, it's about making sure they don't get another chance to move. He stopped playing the victim. Every drop of sweat and every ounce of pain was just fuel for this moment, the moment he finally locks them down. He barely has time to process the threat before it hits home. The mocking voice in his head confirms what he already knows. He's being hunted by someone who finds his struggle entertaining. The voice isn't just mocking him anymore, it's feeding off the adrenaline. He can feel the entity leaning into his fear, pushing him to run harder as the hunt intensifies. The power doesn't just flow, it bites into him like an unwanted parasite. He can feel the entity coiled inside his ribs, waiting for him to slip up and let go. He doesn't have time to think about where he's going, he just needs to move. The ground is a blur beneath his boots as he pushes his body into a desperate sprint. He can feel the mocking tone in her voice, but he doesn't have time to acknowledge it. Right now, his only focus is the heat building behind his eyes and the raw power demanding release. She isn't just mocking him, she's carving out his identity as a weapon. The ultimatum is clear: lose his pride or lose everything. That smile doesn't reach their eyes, it's just a mask for the twisted game they're playing. They aren't even trying to hide the predatory thrill they get from watching him break. The vastness is suffocating. It's the kind of silence that reminds him exactly how small he is in this new, sprawling game. The familiar streets of Derry are now just a hunting ground. He's starting to realize that his old life didn't end with the accident, it was replaced by something much larger. He's barely holding himself upright after the session. The man across from him isn't offering praise, he's just setting the stage for what comes next. The weight of the training is settling into his bones like lead. He can feel Rob's presence nearby, a silent anchor in the shifting landscape of what he's becoming. He isn't just trying to survive anymore, he's starting to play their game with a lethal edge. He knows exactly what he is now, and he's not about to make any mistakes. He knows exactly how much of a target you're making yourself by running blindly into the fire. One wrong move now, and there won't be enough left of you to bury. He doesn't have time for your warnings or your games. Every word you speak is just more noise he has to cut through to stay alive. He isn't just making an empty threat. The shift in his gaze proves he's stopped playing the victim. He's inviting them to witness exactly what he's become since that night. The sharp click of a heel hitting the floor echoes through the hall. Someone is approaching, and they aren't coming to offer help. He stands tall under the floodlights, her gaze fixed on something unseen. She's making it clear that there's no more room for hesitation. The air feels heavy tonight, like every shadow on this bridge is watching them. They aren't just standing in a wasteland, they're stepping into a trap that's already closing. He's done playing games with his patience. Time to cut the waste and end this, right now. He can feel it, the unmistakable, jagged resonance of a peer. It's not just some random threat. He's looking at another player in this twisted game. The realization hits like a physical weight, shattering his sense of isolation. If there are others out there, the hunt just got a lot more crowded. He can't believe what he's seeing, but the fact that it's happening at all is terrifying. Every nerve in his body is screaming for him to run, yet he's forced to stand his ground. He catches that slight crack in her voice, a flicker of genuine doubt. She's trying to play it cool, but she can't hide how much his sudden confidence is rattling her. She leans in close enough to let him feel the heat of her gaze. The mockery in her voice is sharp, a deliberate test to see if he'll break under the pressure. He's done playing both sides of the fence. The choice is officially out of his hands and firmly in hers. The weight of his stance says everything. He's not just standing here, he's waiting for the first sign of movement. He's not just panicking, he's desperate enough to shout over the noise of whatever is coming for him. That frantic reach tells you everything. He's trying to hold back a tide that's already starting to overflow. The adrenaline is fading, leaving nothing but the hollow weight of what he's become. He can feel the key settling in, turning his survival into a transaction. Rob doesn't bother with pleasantries or long explanations. He just wants to shut down Kane's delusions before they get someone killed. They aren't just metal, they're markers of what he's become. Every one of these pins represents a piece of his humanity being hammered into the dirt. The weight of every strike sinks deeper into his skin. Each one is another nail in the coffin of who he used to be. He stares at the evidence in front of him, his stomach dropping. The reality of the trap and who actually set it just hit him like a physical blow. He plays it cool, mocking his luck with a sharp edge to her voice. It's clear she isn't just impressed by his survival, she's fascinated by how much he can take. He doesn't just see his struggle, she sees the cracks in his foundation. Her words cut through the air, stripping away any illusion of his competence. He stares at the wreckage, the weight of every what if hitting him like a physical blow. If someone else had been in his place, would they have survived, or would they be just another ghost in this wasteland? She leans in close, her voice dripping with a mocking edge. It's a twisted game of what if that leaves no room for doubt about how lucky he actually was. The epiphany hits him like a physical blow. He's done trying to play nice with a world that treats him like nothing more than a convenient tool. The air in the room feels heavy, thick with a tension that makes every movement feel deliberate. She stands there like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. She loves the theater of it all, the mockery built into every sharp word. She's not just testing his limits, she's savoring the way he reacts to the pressure. The sheer volume of steel and wood is overwhelming, turning the space into a kill zone. He has to find the gap in the chaos before the next volley pins him down. The veil finally tears. It's not just a vision, it's an overload of every hidden threat suddenly laid bare before his eyes. The hit lands like a freight train, turning his scream into a jagged mess of noise. He's not just taking a hit, he's being dismantled by the sheer force of it. He feels the surge of the key's power racing through those bandages like molten lead. Every movement is a calculated gamble against the parasite trying to seize control. He grits his teeth against the doubt creeping into his head. It's time to stop questioning if he can do it and just start doing it. He isn't impressed, just acknowledging that he's finally stopped tripping over his own feet. It's a low bar to clear, but for him, it's the first step toward becoming something useful. She calls him out with a sharp, mocking edge. It's clear she's tired of his hesitation and wants to see if he can actually hold his ground. The weight finally lifts, replaced by a hollow sense of relief. He can finally stop running from the noise in his head and just breathe for a second. The impact hits like a physical wall, rattling his teeth and threatening to knock the air right out of his lungs. He's barely holding it together as the noise pierces through his skull. He's caught in a tightening circle of silent threats. The air feels heavy with their presence, making every heartbeat feel like a loud confession. The sudden shift in the atmosphere leaves him completely blindsided. He's trying to process what just happened, but his brain is lagging behind the reality of the moment. The warning hits like a physical weight. He needs to stop playing games if he wants to survive what's coming next. He's making it clear that survival isn't just about staying alive, it's about keeping your head on your shoulders. The mockery is sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. The weight of it all finally crushes him. He's done fighting the tide and just wants the noise to stop. He can feel the heat radiating off that thing in the center. He's trying to hold his ground, but he knows she isn't just standing there to be friendly. He's pushing his body past its breaking point to close the gap. One desperate lunge is all that stands between him and a chance at survival. He's done weighing the options. One strike, that's all it takes to end this nightmare for good. She catches him off guard with a sudden move, cutting his momentum before he can land a hit. She's not just reacting anymore, she's taking control of the space. The impact jars his teeth, sending a jolt of raw frustration through his chest. He knows he's outmatched in this exchange, but he refuses to back down. The agony is absolute, a physical scream trapped behind clenched teeth. He isn't just fighting an enemy anymore, he's fighting to keep his mind from shattering under the weight of the intrusion. The invasion isn't just external anymore, it's carving its way into his very biology. He can feel every inch of that parasitic power stitching itself into his flesh like a jagged needle. He toys with his desperation like it's a game of chess. He can barely lift his arm, but she just laughs at the pathetic effort to reach her. He's starting to find a twisted kind of irony in the carnage. The realization hits, his pain isn't just a burden anymore, it's a tactical advantage. He doesn't just have a grip on the situation, she owns the very atmosphere. One wrong move and those floating nails will find their mark before you can even blink. She lets the truth land like a heavy weight. In this world, staying hidden is just a fantasy they can no longer afford. The texture feels wrong under her touch. It's not just stone or steel, it's something much more unsettling. The weight of every one of these is a life he's forced to carry. Every swing is a desperate calculation. Just keep moving, just don't let them catch you. The pressure isn't just outside him anymore, it's pushing out from his very marrow. He can feel the key's influence surging, turning his focus into something sharp and dangerous. He's stripping away his options until there's nothing left but surrender. One wrong move now, and he's finished. She leans in close enough for him to feel the heat radiating off her skin. Her voice is a low, mocking promise that the coming agony might be kept at a minimum. He's bleeding out, but he isn't backing down. He just wants to know if they actually think he's that easy to break. He's starting to realize that survival isn't just about holding his ground anymore. It's about mastering the monster living under his skin. The power is heavy, but for the first time, he's learning how to lean into the weight of it. He's mocking his hesitation, cutting through his confidence with every word. If he can't land a finishing blow now, she'll make sure everyone knows exactly how much of a fraud he is. He's hitting a wall, and it's not just physical exhaustion, it's the sheer scale of the task crushing his resolve. One look at her tells him everything. He isn't just being tested, he's being broken down to see what's left. She knows exactly how much it hurts to lose control, but she isn't here to offer sympathy. She needs him to lock down his feelings before they become a liability he can't manage. He's learning that rage isn't just a weakness, it's a roadmap. If he can find the crack in their armor, he can break them. He needs to shut down his feelings if he wants to survive this. Every ounce of emotion is just another crack in his armor for the enemy to exploit. Psychological warfare isn't just about brute force, it's about finding that one crack in their resolve. If you can map out their triggers, the easiest path to victory becomes glaringly obvious. He's done playing nice with the training routine. Now, she's just waiting for them to realize exactly how outmatched they are. The air just turned heavy enough to choke him. He's staring down the barrel of a reality he wasn't prepared to face, that the hunt has officially begun. The reality of his situation hits like a physical blow. He isn't just a spectator anymore. He's being called into the fold, whether he's ready for the heat or not. The taunt hits like a jagged blade. They're trying to rattle him with his own feelings, but he isn't playing along anymore. The logic is cold, calculated, and completely indifferent to his survival. He's realizing that in this game there's no room for allies, only targets. The masked figure keeps it chillingly pragmatic. He's suggesting they pick off the scraps instead of risking everything on a full-scale confrontation. He can feel the weight of the parasite's presence pressing against his skin like a physical heat. She watches him, her eyes widening as the sheer scale of the power he's wielding begins to manifest. She watches him buckle under the strain, waiting for that one moment where his resolve finally snaps. The power is moving, and she's just waiting to see if he can handle the weight of it. He stops fighting the parasite and starts commanding it. Every shard of power he pulls from the void is a calculated risk, turning his own agony into a weapon. He stays low to the ground, heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He can hear the heavy thud of those boots, the sound of someone closing the distance. He's done playing the victim and is starting to enjoy the hunt. He knows exactly how much pain he can take, and clearly, it isn't enough to stop him. He's reached her limit with his constant chatter. One more word, and she might just let him find out exactly how much it hurts to be ignored. She isn't just mocking him anymore, she's savoring the moment. She wants him to feel every bit of the agony he's trying to ignore. She doesn't just want to win, she wants to break him completely. Every jagged spike is a deliberate move to turn his defiance into pure, agonizing silence. The air itself screams as the kinetic energy takes shape. It's no longer just a move, it's an execution of raw force. The air thickens with the weight of incoming projectiles. He doesn't have time to think, he just has to survive the onslaught. The chaos is swirling around him, but he has to shut it all out. He anchors himself to the rhythm of the work, just one step, one nail at a time. They might be fast, but they aren't faster than him. He has to trust his instincts now. The only way out is to move before they can react. He locks eyes on the target, forcing himself to ignore the searing heat of the power coursing through his veins. As long as he keeps them in sight, the panic stays at bay. He leans in with a mocking grin, making it clear that his current success is nothing more than a false sense of security. He wants him to know that the real nightmare hasn't even begun. She doesn't need to move to let you know she's won. The realization hits like a physical weight, you're already caught in her trap. He's not just showing off her power, she's mocking the very concept of your safety. She wants you to realize that in this game, pain is just another data point. He can feel the weight of their gaze. They're not just watching him, they're measuring how much pressure he can take before he snaps. The adrenaline spike just hit its ceiling, leaving nothing but cold, hard realization. He can feel the shift in the air, something just went horribly wrong. Panic is a luxury he can't afford right now. He has to turn his fear into a calculation, find a way to move faster before the situation collapses on him. He doesn't just move, he explodes into motion. Every muscle is coiled, pushing him forward as he stops being a victim and starts becoming a weapon. One slip in focus, and the reality of his vulnerability hits like a physical blow. He knows he's getting closer to the edge, and let those nails find their mark. Adrenaline is the only thing keeping his muscles from seizing up. He's pushing his body past the breaking point, forcing every last ounce of speed out of his stride. He doesn't give her a second to breathe. He strikes with everything he has left, turning his desperation into a lethal overhead strike. He sees right through his desperate facade, mocking the futility of his sprint. He's running on fumes while she watches him drown in his own refusal to quit. He can barely keep his head steady, but he knows something is wrong. If she wasn't struggling with the connection, this fight would have been over before it even began. He's pushed his body to the absolute breaking point just to reach her. It's a desperate gamble, but at this stage, there's no other choice but to bet everything on this one move. If they're too slow to react, she's basically walking into a trap. He can turn their own momentum against her. He's not just jumping into the fray, he's carving a path through the debris to reach her. He knows one mistake in this exchange means he loses everything. The incoming projectiles are moving too fast for their systems to compensate. They're flying straight into a meat grinder of kinetic energy. He realizes too late that his own strength has turned into a cage. It's not just an attack, it's a betrayal from within. She watches him struggle with a mocking grin, clearly impressed by how well he's holding it together. She didn't expect him to make it this far, but now she has to acknowledge the grit it took to stay standing. He knows exactly what they're trying to play. They think his confidence is an opening, but he's already accounted for every move they have left. She's mocking his resolve with that chillingly calm request. He can feel her dominance radiating off her like heat from an oven. The impact hits like a physical wall, turning his surroundings into a blurred haze of heat and iron. He can barely see through the spray as he tries to find his footing in the chaos. The raw desperation in those words hits like a physical weight. It's not just a plea for death, it's an exhausted scream to end a miserable, frozen existence. He's moving with desperate precision now, every muscle coiled like a spring. He knows he's being hunted and he can't afford to be slow. He's mapping out every inch of the zone, searching for a gap in her reach. He knows he has a window of opportunity, but it's closing fast. He's bolting like he's desperate to put distance between himself and her. He can feel her eyes on his back, mocking the very fact that he's choosing flight over a fight. The ground is alive with movement as the stakes begin to whirl. He needs to focus on the immediate threat before the situation spirals out of control. The sheer scale of her reach hits him like a physical blow. He's realizing now that distance doesn't offer any protection against her influence. He twists his body midair, feeling the weight of every movement as he weaves through the incoming barrage. One wrong move and the next piece of metal will find its mark. One mistake and everything he's built, every ounce of control he's fought for, vanishes. He can feel the entity pushing against his consciousness, demanding absolute focus. The sheer weight of the impact leaves his muscles screaming, but he can't afford to feel it. He knows this brute force isn't enough. He has to pivot his strategy right now. He's barely processing the pain now, just staring through those lenses at the wreckage around him. The silence of the girl across from him is starting to feel heavier than the nails in his skin. He's charging in and she hasn't even flinched. It's like he isn't even there, just another ghost in her peripheral vision. The weight of the realization hits him like a physical blow. He starts to doubt if she's actually capable of stopping what's coming. He needs to stay mobile, dodging every projectile until he can close the gap. One opening, that's all it takes to finish this. He's already over it, and she isn't even hiding the irritation. The fact that she has to do this just proves how much of a headache the situation has become for everyone involved. She calls out his move before he can even land. He's desperate enough to keep using the same tactics just to stay in the game. He knows there's no more room for hesitation or safety nets. This is the moment where he either masters the power inside him or lets it consume everything left of his life. He's finally stopped looking for an out. He knows that if he can just get close enough, his own body won't be a cage anymore. He's leaning into the memory of his first survival. Those marks on his skin are the only reason he's still breathing. He isn't just hoping for a way out anymore. He's pinning his entire existence on this one possibility. Every wrap of cloth is a reminder that survival now requires absolute, unwavering conviction. He's past the point of questioning if he can do it. Now, it's just about finding the willpower to let the power take hold. The hunt isn't just coming, it's already unfolding. Every one of these marks is a target on the map, and he's the only one who can see the pattern. The reality hits him like a physical blow, shattering his composure. It's not just a threat anymore, it's right in front of him. He can feel the power clawing at his ribs, trying to tear its way out from under his skin. Every breath is a battle against the thing inside him, demanding he let go of control. The energy isn't just flowing, it's manifesting into physical barriers that slice through the air. He has to time his movement perfectly, or these jagged shards will shred him before the enemy even gets a chance. The adrenaline hits like a physical weight. He finally feels it. The power isn't just a burden anymore, it's his weapon. He's losing it, her face twisting into something frantic while she screams right in his face. He can barely see past the chaos of her outburst to find a way out. The price of survival isn't just a metaphor anymore, it's physical. Every spike driven into his body is a reminder that he isn't just a man anymore. He's a weapon being forged by something else. He's done trying to play by their rules or hide from the truth. It's time to stop reacting and start striking back. She's reeling from the realization of what he just did. That wasn't just luck, it was an absolute shutdown of every threat in their path. He isn't just surviving anymore, he's starting to enjoy the hunt. He lets out a jagged grin, letting them know exactly how much of a threat he's become. The sheer force of her hit leaves a metallic tang in his mouth. He realizes now that she isn't just skilled, she's a physical powerhouse. She caught him off guard by closing the distance instantly. He realizes now that her precision wasn't just skill, it was an invitation to a trap he couldn't dodge. He tried to play it cool with some bravado, but one hit from her proved he was out of his league. He's realizing now that she isn't just skilled, she's the real deal. She doesn't just win, she dominates. One heavy step is all it takes to let him know he's completely outclassed. She plays it cool, but that smile says she knows exactly how much higher the stakes just got. He's no longer just a survivor, he's a target with a heavy crown to wear. He's running on empty, his body failing while his mind tries to hold onto the last shred of his identity. Now, someone else wants to know exactly what kind of monster or weapon he's become. She mocks his desperation with a sharp edge. He's out of his depth and she knows it. He's spiraling, the panic finally bubbling over into a raw, desperate denial. He can't make sense of what's happening, but he knows something is about to break. The suggestion is almost kind, but it carries a jagged edge of desperation. He can feel the pressure building behind his eyes, making even a simple offer for help feel like a threat. The realization hits hard, he's still trapped in the same cycle. No matter how much he fights it, she's already won. The muscle memory of his training is failing him as the panic sets in. He just needs one opening, 1 second of distance to break free. The weight of the strike is almost tangible in the air. He's clinging to her like a lifeline as the blade carves through the space between them. The metallic thud of those stakes hitting home is the only thing keeping him grounded. Every drop of gore on that surface is just another reminder of what he's willing to endure to stay alive. He catches him off guard with a look of pure confusion. For a split second, the reality of the situation hits him like a physical blow. The physical toll isn't just a metaphor anymore. It's a literal brand into his skin. Every pierce is a reminder that his body is no longer his own, but a vessel being claimed by something much older and hungrier. The reality of the strike hits him harder than the physical blow. He stares at his hands, realizing he just missed his opening. He can't wrap his head around what just happened. That wasn't a mistake, it was a choice that changes everything. The pain is sharp, but it's the underlying demand that chills him to the bone. It's not just an injury, it's an invitation. He stares at the mess on his skin, trying to process why it feels so familiar. It's not just a wound, he's realizing exactly what he lost in the struggle. The heat is still radiating off his skin, a physical reminder of what he just endured. Every breath feels heavy, like the air itself is trying to press him into the dirt. He barely has time to process the shift in the air before she's already pivoting away. He can't tell if she's escaping or just finished with him. He's done playing nice with the rules now. If anyone stands in his way, be it an exorcist or some other scavenger, they're getting dealt with immediately. She knows exactly what she's doing to him. It's not just a threat, it's an execution order. The shift isn't just about power, it's about an invitation into something much darker. He isn't just offering a demonstration, he's pulling the veil back. The silence is absolute. In this void, even his thoughts are being swallowed by the weight of what he's about to face. The weight of it all hits him at once, the realization that his old life is gone, replaced by this heavy crown of power. He's not just surviving anymore, he's becoming the very weapon they need him to be. He's struggling against the hardware, his voice cracking as the physical toll of the restraints starts to set in. He just needs a second of breathing room, but they aren't budging. The air doesn't just move, it shatters. Everything around them is getting wiped clean by that blast. He can feel it, the sheer weight of the presence standing right in front of him. It's not just a person, it's something that feels like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. The realization hits like a physical blow. He didn't expect this turn in the game, or maybe he just wasn't prepared for how much it would sting. The words hit like a physical weight. He wasn't prepared for the reality of what he was looking at, or maybe he just didn't want to believe it. The threat just got real. He can see it in their eyes. This isn't a skirmish anymore, it's a full-scale hunt. He doesn't look like a man who's afraid of what's coming next. That smug grin says he's already decided exactly how far he's willing to go. He doesn't care what kind of chaos is unfolding just out of sight right now. All that matters is the fact that he's finally breathing easy enough to call it a win. The air screams as the power finally erupts from his core. He doesn't just feel the energy, he becomes the conduit for it. The pressure finally snaps. He isn't just wielding the power anymore, he's letting it tear through his skin like a physical weight. It's violent, jagged, and completely overwhelming. The reality of what he just endured hits him like a physical blow. He can barely breathe, his mind reeling as the adrenaline begins to fade into raw, jagged pain. The alarm just went off. They can't ignore that surge, Kane is out there, and the gate is opening wide enough to swallow everything. The air between them is heavy, thick with a tension that feels like it's about to snap. He can feel the heat radiating off the other person, and he knows exactly how much skin is between him and a total collapse into violence. The heavy lifting is done, but the consequences are now theirs to carry alone. They aren't looking for sympathy, just a clear directive on who to target next. He's losing his grip on the pragmatism of the situation. It's not just an order anymore, it's a life on the line, and he can't stomach the cold logic of the hierarchy right now. He's finally letting it all out, a jagged laugh that feels less like joy and more like a release of pressure. He knows the truth now. The absurdity of his survival is the only joke left. They're turning the chaos into a spectator sport. It's a mockery of their supposed authority, watching the elite collapse into self-destruction. The mission was simple: find the carrier. Now that they have him in custody, the real game begins. The choice is laid bare. Someone has to stay behind as the anchor while the other moves. It's a cold ultimatum, leaving no room for sentimentality in the face of failure. He doesn't care about the cost anymore. He's just accepted the terms of his survival. That chillingly calm "fine" says everything. The boy from Derry is officially gone. The cryptic advice hangs in the air like a heavy weight. They know exactly what's coming, but they aren't the ones who have to face it. The sheer scale of the output is staggering. It's not just power anymore. It's a complete, violent release of everything he's been forced to contain. He leans into the chaos with a grin that feels way too confident for someone currently unraveling. He knows he's won, even if the victory leaves nothing but ashes behind. The power isn't just flowing through him anymore. It's starting to rewrite his very biology. He can feel the heat of the transformation burning against his skin like a brand. The noise in his head reaches a deafening roar as the power finally takes hold. He isn't just using it anymore. He's becoming part of the machine. The air shatters as something monstrous tears through the atmosphere. He barely has time to react before the sheer force of the impact hits his senses like a physical blow. The realization hits like a physical weight. He can feel something, or someone, triggering deep inside his biology. The ground gives way under his weight, splitting open as the reality of the situation sinks in. He isn't just standing on Earth anymore. He's standing on a doorway to something much worse. The air doesn't just move, it shatters. He stops fighting the surge and lets the power hollow out everything around him. The reality of it hits like a physical blow. It's not just some power he's wielding, it's something that is rewriting his very existence. The warning hits like a blunt instrument. It's not just a threat, it's the reality of what he's becoming. She stops holding back, letting the raw energy tear through the air like a physical weight. It's not just a display, it's a total surrender to what she's become. He can barely process the sheer scale of her power. It's hitting him like a physical wall. He's running on empty, and his body is starting to give out. The air thickens as the parasite manifests into something tangible. He can feel its presence looming over him, demanding he acknowledge the power now coursing through his veins. He hears his name cut through the static of the battlefield like a blade. It's the only thing keeping him grounded while the power tries to pull him under. The name hits him like a physical blow, cutting through the haze of his panic. He's spiraling, his mind grasping for any anchor as he realizes just how out of his depth he really is. The realization hits like a cold weight in his chest. He can't lean on anyone else anymore. It's just him and the monster inside. He catches the scent of a hunter on the wind. The game is finally getting interesting. That grin says everything. He's finally done playing nice with the rules. The sheer weight of that power is starting to rewrite his very cells. He's no longer just fighting an opponent. He's struggling to stay whole while the entity takes over. He plays it off with a chillingly casual grin, acting like this chaos is just another night out. She knows exactly how much of a threat she poses. She cuts him off with a casual grin that doesn't reach her eyes. The smile is a polite mask for the fact that she's done playing games for today. He leans into the moment, the smirk on his face cutting through the tension like a blade. It's not just a threat, it's an execution. The surge isn't just power. It's an invasive current rewriting his very biology. He can feel the parasite's hunger vibrating through his bones, demanding he let go and become its vessel. The parasite isn't just staying in the back of his mind anymore. It's starting to rewrite the way he sees everything. He can feel that heavy, unnatural weight pressing against his skull with every heartbeat. The mechanism gives way with a violent crack. He realizes the shift isn't just physical, it's a signal that the rules have just changed. He can barely process the threat until the command hits his ears like a physical blow. Something, or someone, is screaming for him to move before everything collapses. The impact hits like a physical wall, stripping away his defenses in a heartbeat. He can feel the very air shattering around him as the explosion throws him into the void. Every step feels heavy, as if the very floor is trying to pull him down into the dirt. He can't afford to look back. He just has to keep moving before the noise in his head takes over. The air doesn't just move, it shatters. He stops being a man and becomes a landslide of raw, unchecked force. The air feels heavy, thick enough to choke on. Something is shifting in the haze, and it isn't just the wind. She catches him off guard with that sharp grin. It's not just a taunt. She's testing to see if he's actually learning or just lucky. He's tasting the air like a predator finding a fresh scent. She wants to see if these exorcists can actually hold their ground or if they'll break under the pressure. The weight of the weapon feels like an extension of his own arm now. He isn't just holding it, he's mastering the momentum of the kill. He's trying to play it cool, but the grip tells a different story. The reality is starting to sink in. This isn't a training exercise anymore. He isn't just making a promise, he's issuing a warning. The sheer scale of his power is about to hit them like a freight train. The air screams with static as the threat becomes personal. They aren't letting this one slip away. She's trying to give him an out, but the look in his eyes says he isn't going anywhere. He stopped running from the monster inside him. Now he's just deciding how to wield it. The gaze is cold enough to freeze blood. She isn't just testing his limits anymore. She's demanding he acknowledge the threat. The time for negotiation just hit a brick wall. He's done playing nice. Now it's just about finishing what started. He catches the same realization at the exact same moment. It's a shared instinct, a sudden alignment of goals that shifts everything. The air thickens as the transition takes hold. It's not just a change in power, it's a complete rewrite of his reality. He can feel it. The raw power isn't some wild beast just anymore. It's starting to behave with a chilling, deliberate intent. It moves with a heavy grace that makes his skin crawl, like something far more intelligent is pulling the strings. He braces his weight against the barrier, feeling every fracture pulse through his palm. If he misses this window, the next wave won't just break the gate, it'll tear him apart. He grits his teeth against the jarring kickback of the blade. He has to hold firm, even if the feedback threatens to shatter his grip. The noise in his head finally settles into a single, sharp directive. He just needs to close the gap. He's closing the distance with lethal intent. This isn't just a move, it's a warning that his window of safety is officially slamming shut. He stops fighting the internal noise and lets the power take over. It's not just a move, it's a declaration that he's no longer just surviving, he's hunting. The air literally cracks under the pressure of the surge. He isn't just wielding the power anymore, he's letting it tear through his very existence. He plants his feet firm against the cracking ground, grounding himself before the next move. Every muscle is coiled, waiting for the moment to strike. He stops fighting the internal noise and lets the power flow. It's no longer a struggle to contain the beast. He's finally learning how to wield it as a weapon. He lets the raw energy flood his veins, forcing the parasite's power into a weapon he can finally point at his enemies. It's not just a surge anymore, it's a total takeover of the atmosphere. The air screams as he finally lets it loose. He's done holding back, now he just wants them to feel the weight of his choice. The rules are changing now. Everything he knew about his old life just burned away, leaving only this raw, jagged truth behind. He leans into the surge, teeth grit against the raw pressure of the key. Every muscle is screaming as he forces the energy to obey his command instead of consuming him. He can't wrap his head around it. Everything he just threw at her didn't even leave a scratch. He stops fighting the internal noise and settles into a cold, lethal focus. It's time to stop enduring the pain and start delivering it. He feels the weight of the sword as much as the pressure from the entity inside him. Every muscle is coiled, waiting for the first sign of movement to strike. He isn't just swinging a blade, he's unleashing a catastrophe. Every ounce of his willpower is funneled into that stroke, desperate to cut through the noise of the parasite inside him. He's realizing too late that she underestimated his output. One hit is all it takes to turn a calculated move into a desperate struggle for air. He isn't just making a move, she's throwing everything she has into this strike. One hit is all it takes to turn his defense into a desperate struggle for survival. He twists his body just in time to dodge the blast. He can feel the key's power surging through his nerves, turning his muscles into something more than human. The impact hits like a physical wall, forcing him into a low crouch to stay grounded. He grinds his teeth, bracing for whatever comes next in this corridor of violence. He's done playing nice. He levels his fist at them, fueled by a sudden, jagged surge of defiance. He grits his teeth, channeling every ounce of focus into the blade held above his head. It's not just a weapon anymore, it's his only line of defense against whatever is coming next. He's closing the gap with terrifying speed. He can feel the air pressure change as she lunges, forcing him to brace for the impact of her strike. The weight of his new reality is starting to crush him. He's looking for an exit, but there's nowhere left to run. The strain is becoming physical, a grinding heat behind his teeth as he tries to hold the line. He's not just fighting an enemy, he's fighting the sheer weight of what's crawling inside him. The ground literally buckles under the pressure of their presence. Every crack is bleeding out that sickly green energy, a warning that the perimeter is officially breached. He realizes she's trapped in a cage of her own making. It's not just a physical barrier, it's a realization that she's stuck in a situation with no easy exit. The mockery hits like a physical blow, cutting through his desperate defense. He doesn't have time to process the insult before the killing intent pins him to the spot. He stops fighting the intrusion and lets the power take hold completely. It's not just a tool anymore, he's becoming the weapon. The shock hits like a physical weight, momentarily paralyzing his senses. He can barely find enough breath to scream. The beast isn't just whispering anymore, it's tearing through his skin to get out. He can feel the metal of his own transformation carving into his face, but he refuses to blink. The power isn't just a tool anymore, it's starting to feel like an extension of his own nervous system. He can feel the parasite's pulse syncing with his heartbeat, demanding he let go of the last of his restraint. The air doesn't just vibrate, it shatters. He stops fighting the surge and lets the raw power carve through the space around him. The parasite isn't just whispering anymore, it's clawing its way into his consciousness. He can feel the boundary between his own will and the key's hunger starting to dissolve. He pushes his body past its limits, every muscle screaming as he closes the gap. He isn't just running, he's hunting. He doesn't have time for games or distractions. If something is moving in the shadows, she's going to crush it before it can blink. The air screams as he unleashes the surge. It's no longer just about survival, it's about absolute control. The weight of what he's lost hits him all at once. He can barely find the breath to offer a simple apology. The surge hits him like a physical wall, forcing his body to react before his mind can even process the input. He isn't just channeling the energy anymore, he's letting it take the wheel. The world shrinks down to the immediate physical sensation of the weight. He can't see the enemy yet, he can only feel the pressure of what's coming. The air practically shatters as the surge hits him like a physical blow. He's losing his grip on the rhythm, and the realization that he's becoming just another weapon starts to set in. He's learning to channel the surge without letting it tear him apart. Every ounce of focus is now directed into the wood in his hands, turning raw energy into a precise weapon. He's closing the gap with everything he's got, turning those wraps into a weapon of proximity. She knows what's coming and prepares to take the hit just to keep him from losing control. She's pushing him into a corner where he can't look away from the power. She wants to see if he'll break under the pressure or finally learn to own it. The impact isn't just hitting the metal, it's shattering the very air around it. He feels every vibration of that collision deep in his bones, a violent reminder of just how much power is now flowing through him. He barely has time to process the scale of it before the sheer magnitude hits him. It's not just a threat, it's an overwhelming realization of what he's actually facing. She can feel the air thickening, the sheer weight of his power beginning to buckle her defenses. She knows she has to shut it down before he loses control entirely. He grips the hilt until his knuckles turn white. It's not just a weapon anymore, it's the only thing keeping him grounded while the power inside tries to tear him apart. He knows there's no room for hesitation anymore. This is his only shot at survival, and he's going to take it. He pushes through the static, turning his body into a living projectile. One clean strike, that's all it takes to break through the defense. The air doesn't just move, it shatters. This isn't just a strike, it's the raw, violent release of everything he's been forced to internalize. He stops trying to contain it and just lets the monster out. It's not a choice anymore, it's a total surrender to the power coursing through his veins. He stops thinking about the pain and starts focusing on the kill. Every muscle is coiled like a spring, channeling that raw, jagged energy into one decisive strike. The world just fell away, leaving nothing but the cold weight of what's coming next. He's no longer looking for an exit, he's just trying to find his footing in the void. He's pushing through the mental fog, forcing his focus into a single point of execution. The internal doubt is fading, replaced by the cold realization that he has to hold this line. The weight of the parasite is heavy today, but he's leaning into it instead of fighting back. He doesn't need to think anymore, he just needs to execute. The air hums with static as his power surges into something tangible. He isn't just holding back anymore, he's letting it bleed out. The silence is heavy, like something massive is pressing against his chest. He can feel that jagged edge of power beginning to bleed into his reality. The surface shatters under the weight of the impact. It's not just stone hitting water, it's the sound of something breaking through into his world. The surge isn't just passing through him anymore, it's taking over. He stops fighting the monster inside and starts using its teeth as his own. The air cracks as the first real hit lands. He can feel every ounce of force behind the blow, a brutal reminder that he's no longer just sparring, he's being hunted. The impact isn't just physical, it's like hitting a brick wall made of pure electricity. He can feel the air itself fracturing as the sheer force of the strike tries to buckle his ribs. He stares at the gaping hole in his defense, barely able to process how he's still standing. That strike didn't just hit him, it tore through everything. He's barely clinging to consciousness when a voice cuts through the ringing in his ears. It's not just an insult, it's a cold, mocking invitation to stay awake. The threat isn't just coming from the shadows, it's standing right in front of them. One wrong move and everything ends. The name hits like a physical weight. He's searching for any scrap of certainty left in this nightmare, but all he finds is the haunting echo of a familiar voice. She's mocking his struggle, pointing out how well he managed to hold the line alone. He doesn't even have time to be angry before she offers that biting, sarcastic apology. The air doesn't just move, it shatters. He can feel the raw power of the key surging through his veins, turning every frantic heartbeat into a weapon. The fight just drained every last drop of his resolve. He's done fighting. The surrender is as much a physical collapse as it is a mental one. The raw energy isn't just surrounding him anymore, it's starting to feel like part of his pulse. He has to hold the line, even if the sheer volume of the surge threatens to burn out his senses. The ground gives way as the shockwave hits him like a physical wall. He's trying to stay upright, but every muscle is screaming against the pressure of that impact. His lungs burn like they're filled with glass, every breath a desperate struggle to stay conscious. He just needs to know if the nightmare is actually over or if this is just the beginning of a new one. The window of opportunity is closing fast. They need to move now or risk being trapped in this hellscape forever. The weight of the question hangs heavy in the air. She can't ignore the fact that they aren't the only ones playing this deadly game. He's completely out of commission for now. Nick's making sure our other friend stays out of this mess too. The realization hits like a physical blow. If he's mentioning Felix, it means the situation just spiraled into something much more personal. He knows he's running out of options, but his gut is screaming that something is still wrong. He's trying to force himself into submission, even as his resolve starts to fracture. He's trying to claw his way back to a life he no longer recognizes. Every word is a desperate plea against the fact that his survival came at a price he can't undo. The guys in the back are making jokes at her expense, but they have no idea how much she's actually holding together right now. She just wants to get through the shift without their commentary breaking her focus. They're treating her like a punchline, laughing at the very thing she's trying to build. She has to sit there and take it, letting their pathetic jokes slide while she keeps her eyes locked on the goal. He isn't just watching from the sidelines anymore, he's savoring the moment. He knows exactly how much power he's holding back. She's not just a person anymore, she's a target in a room full of predators. She can feel them circling, waiting for the right moment to tear her apart. The offer is wrapped in a layer of heavy irony. They aren't just offering a hand, they're dangling a carrot to see if he'll take the bait. The air in the room just curdled. She can feel his words hitting her like physical weight, forcing her to confront what they're actually planning. The silence between them is heavy enough to choke. She can't even find the words to comfort her friend, knowing that some things can't be fixed with a drink or a few honest words. He's begging for space, but the physical reality of the situation isn't listening to his words. Every strike is a reminder that he's not in control anymore. He's trying to sound intimidating, but that involuntary hiccup betrays just how much pressure he's under. He wants Kane to understand that this isn't a game, it's a death sentence. He leans in, his voice cracking under the strain of his own desperation. She barely manages to get a word out, the involuntary hitch in her breath betraying how much the pressure is grinding her down. She doesn't give him a choice. The ultimatum is out and it's time to move. The sudden grip snaps her focus, forcing her to confront the reality of the situation. She can barely breathe as the realization hits. Something just changed everything. She's done playing nice and the line has been crossed. She doesn't just want him to back off, she wants him gone. The mockery hits harder than the actual blow. He's being broken down, piece by piece, while they watch his collapse like it's some kind of twisted performance. The realization hits him like a physical weight. The sheer scale of what just happened is starting to sink in. He's terrified, but he's still breathing. He's trying to play it off like a joke, but the blood on his face tells a different story. He just needs them to back off so he can breathe for 1 second. The crowd is cheering, but the words feel like a sickening pat on the back. They aren't celebrating her victory, they're just applauding her for doing their dirty work. The adrenaline is bottoming out, replaced by a raw, jagged panic. He can barely find the breath to scream as reality starts to crack around them. The offer is wrapped in velvet, but the underlying demand is cold as ice. They aren't just looking for a worker, they're looking for a weapon that fits their specific mold. The offer hangs heavy in the air, a choice between staying in the shadows or stepping into the light. She's making it clear that the real work starts once they step inside. The pulse of the key isn't just a feeling anymore, it's a physical weight pressing against his skin. He can feel the entity's presence clawing at the edges of his consciousness, demanding he let go. Everything goes quiet. It's that hollow, ringing silence where his own heartbeat feels like it's being drowned out by something much larger. He's starting to believe it, the lie of absolute power. He thinks because she gave him this strength, he's untouchable, but he doesn't see the strings pulling his limbs. The voice in his head is smooth, almost hypnotic, promising everything he ever wanted. It's a seductive trap, wrapping his new power in velvet words to make the surrender feel like a victory. The promise of power feels like a heavy weight, but it comes with a chilling justification. They aren't just offering him a weapon, they're selling him a crusade under the guise of salvation. They aren't just talking about flowers, they're laying out a prophecy for what he's becoming. The choice is clear, either bloom into something magnificent or wither under the pressure of his new reality. He's finally stopped fighting the parasite and started embracing its agenda. It's not just a partnership anymore, he's becoming the very weapon she needs him to be. The transformation isn't just a change in power, it's an absolute erasure of his old life. He isn't just holding the key anymore, he's becoming its vessel. The pressure is mounting, but he can't let her face this alone. He just needs one more push to break through. The air doesn't just move, it shatters under the weight of the strike. He isn't just swinging anymore, he's unleashing everything he has to tear through the defense. The impact isn't just physical, it's a violation of every instinct to survive. He can feel the air leaving his lungs as the force tears through him, turning his body into nothing more than a target. The warning hits like a physical wall. He isn't just making a suggestion, he's laying down a hard line in the sand. The command is clear, surrender now if you want to keep your pulse. But that warning is about to be drowned out by a deafening roar of emerald energy. The silence here is heavy, like a void where every sound and sight just vanished. It's the moment before the reality hits him. The familiar streets of Derry feel wrong today. It's as if the very air is vibrating with a frequency only he can hear. He needs something, anything, to dull the edge of the pain. It's just a simple gesture of care, but in this headspace, even a sip of water feels like a lifeline. He can barely keep his head up, every breath feeling like a chore. The weight of what he's carrying is starting to crush the air out of his lungs. The architecture feels oppressive, closing in like a cage of concrete and shadows. Every inch of this space is designed to swallow him whole. The realization hits like a physical blow. He thought he could handle the weight, but the reality of what he's become is starting to crush his composure. The reality of his new life hits him with a heavy, sickening weight. He looks at the monster inside him and wonders if everyone else is forced to share this same nightmare. The high of the fight is fading, replaced by a cold, clinical evaluation of his performance. He's not just being praised, he's being processed into something useful. The training is over, but the real work begins now. He needs to swallow the truth before it consumes him. She keeps it professional, but there's a sharp edge to her words. She needs him to stop spiraling and start grasping the reality of what he just survived. She's staring him down, searching for any crack in his resolve. She knows exactly how much pressure he can take before he snaps. She doesn't waste time on pleasantries, diving straight into the heavy truth of what he witnessed. He has to listen closely. This isn't just a story anymore, it's the blueprint of his new reality. He's trying to wrap his head around the mechanics of this deal. It's not just about having the power anymore, it's about understanding what exactly he's letting into his veins. She plays it cool, but there's a guarded edge to her voice. She's walking him through the hoops of a classified world where every word has to be weighed for its secrets. The reality of what he saw that night hits like a physical blow. It wasn't just some anomaly, it was an opening, a literal tear in the fabric of his world. The energy isn't just a tool anymore, it's a physical manifestation of the pact he made. Seeing this kind of raw output is a rare event, one that marks him as something much more than a mere survivor. The realization hits like a physical weight. He isn't just using this power, he's hosting it. He's no longer just a man, but a vessel for something that won't let him go easily. It's not just a partnership, it's a parasitic dependency. He's learning that without its host, the key has no purpose, and without the key, he has no future. The beast doesn't just need a host to exist, it needs one to stay sane. Without a human shell to tether its consciousness, the entity begins to unravel into pure, volatile energy. He looms over her like an inevitable fact, his presence heavy enough to choke the air. She can barely find the breath to process his words as the reality of their situation settles in. She can still taste the copper of the transition in the air. The realization hits, it wasn't just a shift in power, it was a complete metamorphosis. The heavy silence in the room is thick enough to choke on. He pauses for a heartbeat, letting the weight of his words sink in before they decide what to do next. The math is starting to click. The more he leans into the gate's influence, the more the parasite feeds him. It's a terrifying trade-off, but for the first time, he sees how much power he's actually leaving on the table. The rules are simple. Once you let it in, there are no more walls between your will and its power. It's a terrifying freedom that turns the host into a weapon with zero inhibitions. The roar of the parasite is deafening now, a constant scream in the back of his skull. He has to find the rhythm, not just survive the surge, but command it. He stares into the void of the power, trying to find a grip on something that wants to consume him. It's not just about survival anymore. He needs to know if he can actually master this thing. He doesn't sugarcoat the truth. These things are just as maddening to deal with as they are powerful. The secrets of the keys are buried deep, and every ounce of unknown information is a potential death sentence. He's done playing it safe. He'll tear through every lie until the truth comes out, even if it costs him everything. They aren't just myths or rare anomalies. These things are everywhere, lurking in every shadow until they find a host. The scale of this hunt doesn't care about borders. It's an absolute reality that swallows everything from city streets to the wild open plains. They don't have names or faces, just a relentless, faceless hunger that spreads like an infection. They aren't just monsters, they're a plague moving through the shadows. He's laying it all out now, no more games. The weight of those unanswered questions is finally starting to crush the silence between them. He stops the training for a second to drop some cold, hard truth. She wants to know if he's actually grasping the logic behind their nightmare, or if he's just blindly following orders. The realization hits him like a physical blow. He isn't just a soldier. He's a pawn in a game where the rules are buried under layers of secrets he can't even fathom yet. The realization hits her. His uniqueness isn't just a tool for them, it's a target. She pauses, choosing her next words carefully before dropping a truth that changes everything. The words hang in the air before he even speaks. It's that heavy, deliberate silence where everything is about to change. The weight of the parasite's presence is crushing him from the inside out. Every breath feels like swallowing glass as he fights to keep his mind from fracturing. The fog in his mind is thickening, turning every thought into a distant echo. He can barely grasp his own name, let alone where he's standing. The air feels heavy with the scent of rust and old decay. He stares up at that flickering light, wondering if it's an invitation or a warning from something waiting above. The high of the surge fades, leaving nothing but a hollow ache where his pulse used to be. He's not just a boy anymore. He's a prototype being tested by a power that doesn't care if he survives the process. She freezes, the sheer impossibility of what she just saw hitting her like a physical blow. Her composure shatters instantly. The scale of the hunt is about to shift. Everything Kane knew about his world just became a lot smaller and much more dangerous. That realization hits like a physical weight. He isn't just a target anymore, he's being scouted by the very people hunting his kind. Every step feels like a statement of intent. He's no longer running, he's planting his feet and preparing to strike. The mark isn't just a symbol, it's a seal of ownership. It burns into his consciousness as the reality of the pact finally settles in. She's screaming for a way out, but the metal around her isn't budging an inch. He doesn't even blink, his cold response cutting through her panic like a blade. He's reached his breaking point, but the silence from the other side is deafening. He just wants out of this nightmare, even if it means losing everything else. The mockery cuts deep because it's true. His performance on the bridge was a disaster. They aren't even giving him the courtesy of an explanation anymore, treating him like a broken tool that just needs to function. The interrogation is over, and it feels like his spirit just broke with the final word. They didn't just take information, they stripped him of his agency until there was nothing left but a hollow shell. The pressure is mounting until it's physically painful to breathe. He can feel the parasite pushing against his consciousness, demanding he buckle under the weight of its power. The time for talking is over, it's time for blood. He accepts the command with a grim nod, ready to move. The weight of the realization hits him like a physical blow. He's not just being used as a tool, he's becoming something else entirely. She's losing it. The panic in her eyes is raw. She knows exactly what happens the moment that key is stripped away. The heat is becoming unbearable. He can feel the power thrumming just beneath his skin, a jagged pulse that feels less like an ability and more like a parasite demanding to be let out. He's giving her a warning she probably won't like. It's not an invitation, it's a countdown to something violent. The weight of it isn't just physical, it's the hum of something alive vibrating through his palm. He can feel the parasite waking up, demanding he stop being a victim and start becoming a weapon. His breath hitches as reality fractures in front of him. He can't believe what he's seeing. The sheer scale of it is starting to sink in. The reality of his situation just hit like a physical blow. This isn't training anymore, it's an execution order. It's not just a tool, it's a parasite that can be forcibly ripped from its housing. Once it's out, the only way to stop it is to destroy it entirely. He stares at the object in disbelief, his pulse spiking as the reality of what it is finally sinks in. It's not just some trinket, it's the very thing that changed his life forever. The rules are simple. Some secrets aren't meant for human ears. The truth of what this thing is remains locked behind a wall of silence. The rules are absolute. This thing isn't just a tool, it's a predator. If it touches another holder, it won't just break their gear, it'll sever their connection to the source entirely. The truth is a bitter pill. They aren't just hunting monsters, they're trying to keep the host alive while doing it. Without these specific precautions, every single one of these saves ends in a bloodbath. He's spiraling, trying to wrap his head around the twisted logic of their tactics. If the target is so easy to kill, why are they making him dance through these unnecessary hurdles? The reality around him fractures into a kaleidoscope of noise and light. He's begging for it to end, but the power isn't listening anymore. It's not just a piece of metal anymore, it's an invitation to something much worse. He feels the weight of the pact shifting as the key begins to hum in his grip. He grips the shard like it's his only lifeline in a dying world. Without this piece of metal to anchor him, he's just another ghost in the machine. The weight of the failure hits him like a physical blow. He's breaking, his voice cracking as he begs for forgiveness from the only person who mattered. He grips the weight of the blade, feeling the raw power surging through the hilt. It's no longer just a weapon, it's an extension of his own will. That desperate plea hangs in the air, heavy with the weight of a choice already made. He's not just asking for forgiveness, he's begging to keep his soul before it's completely consumed. The power doesn't just flow, it screams into existence. He can feel the entity's presence shifting from a passenger to something much more dominant. The weight of the transformation hits like a physical blow. He isn't just holding the weapon anymore, he's becoming the conduit for its violent energy. The surge hits like a physical wall, forcing him to endure the raw, unfiltered roar of the entity. He's no longer just holding the line, he's letting it rewrite his senses. The impact hits like a physical weight, shattering the silence into jagged pieces. It's time to stop hiding and start moving. The heat from the parasite pulses against his skin, a constant reminder that he's no longer alone in his own head. He can feel the power clawing at his consciousness, demanding he let go of the man he used to be. The physical pain is gone, replaced by something far more unsettling, a hollow void where his very soul used to be. He's still standing, but the person he was before the surge is fading into nothing. She knows the truth. They aren't just wielding a tool, they're hosting a monster. The real danger isn't what the power can do, but what it might decide to do on its own. She knows exactly how dangerous this power is. It's not just a tool she's wielding, but a volatile beast. Every time he taps into it, he's betting his very sanity against the strength it provides. He stops fighting the internal noise and finally lets it out. The roar of the entity becomes his own voice, shattering everything in its path. The air doesn't just move, it shatters. Every ounce of that raw power hits like a physical wall, turning the atmosphere into something jagged and lethal. The surge isn't just an aura, it's a physical weight, forcing him to buckle under the sheer scale of it. He can feel his identity fraying at the edges as the emerald heat tries to swallow everything else. He's not just some rookie anymore, he's becoming the biggest threat on the board. He can feel it the moment his status changes from target to predator. The kid knows the rules, the thing out there feeds on metal, so he has to play it smart. But staying focused is the real fight. He can't afford a single lapse in concentration while that blade is all he's got left. The thing isn't just listening, it's mocking him. It knows he's cornered and the realization of his situation is starting to set in. The transformation isn't just a change in power. It's an erasure of everything he used to be. He can feel the void opening up, swallowing his old identity to make room for something far more dangerous. The entity isn't just reacting, it's mocking him for thinking he had the upper hand. It wants him to know exactly how much of a victim he really is. The air feels heavy, thick with that suffocating energy that only comes when two powers collide. He can feel the hum of it vibrating in his teeth, a warning that things are about to get very real. The power is practically humming under his skin now, a constant reminder of the price he paid for survival. He's trying to stay grounded while the sheer scale of the threat starts to settle in. He analyzes the threat with cold, clinical precision. The target is weak right now, but that only gives him a narrow window to strike before it recovers. He stops listening to the noise inside his head and focuses on the raw power of the moment. He knows they won't be able to touch him if he moves fast enough. The air practically screams as the strike connects, but he doesn't budge an inch. He stopped playing defense and is now just waiting for them to realize they can't break him. The arrogance of his enemies gives him just enough room to breathe. He's looking for a gap in their defense, waiting for that one split second to strike. He feels the weight of the blade and the hum of the entity beneath his skin. Every muscle is coiled, waiting for the split second where instinct takes over. The impact hits like a physical wall, shattering both his focus and the very air around him. He barely has time to gasp before the shockwave ripples through his bones. He shifts his weight, every muscle tensing as he pivots into the strike. He can't afford a single slip-up. One missed beat means the key takes over completely. The air literally shatters as he unleashes the surge. It's not just a strike, It's a desperate, jagged explosion of raw energy that tears through the atmosphere. The sheer volume of the impact hits like a physical wall. He isn't just channeling the power anymore, he's letting it explode. The noise in his head is getting louder, a constant hum of static that only clarifies when the adrenaline kicks in. He stops fighting the pulse and starts riding it like a weapon. He tightens his grip on the shaft, feeling the vibration of the power coursing through the metal. He can't let it slip. If he loses control now, everything falls apart. They're playing it cool for now, but the tension in the air is heavy enough to choke on. He knows every word of this debate carries weight. Some secrets are safer left buried. These aren't just relics, they're built for something specific. We need to start preparing for the worst-case scenario. He's done fighting just to stay upright. Now, he's just another piece of cargo being moved across the board. The weight of the hunt is settling in, turning every thought into a calculation for survival. He knows the answers are out there. He just has to be strong enough to drag them into the light. The familiar chime of an arrival echoes through the chamber. It's time to see if he can handle what's waiting for him on the other side. The air feels thick enough to choke on as he watches from the shadows. He can barely see through the brambles, but he knows something massive is looming just beyond the veil. The message hits like a ghost in the room. He stands there, caught between the weight of his role and the simple, haunting sincerity of the words. The weight of his failure hits home, cracking the thin line between his will and the entity's control. He's not just losing a fight, he's losing his grip on himself. The cost of survival just became crystal clear. He isn't just surrendering to the entity anymore, he's handing over the keys to his own existence. The weight of those lost lives isn't just a memory, it's the price of admission for the power he now wields. He's forced to swallow the guilt of his fallen soldiers just to keep standing. The plan is moving forward, but the distance feels like a physical weight now. He's stuck behind a glass wall, watching the pieces fall into place while he can't reach out to touch them. The hierarchy is crumbling. In this game, nobody, not even the elites, gets a free pass from what's coming. She's finally breaking through the noise, shedding the last layers of her old identity. It's not just power she's feeling, it's the terrifying clarity of becoming something else entirely. He plays his cards close to the chest, desperate for any scrap of guidance from the power inside him. She grants him the floor, but the weight of her presence makes every word feel like a heavy debt. The intel points to a wild card, a rogue playing both sides of the fence. He knows exactly who he's dealing with now, even if the truth is uglier than expected. The resemblance is haunting, too close to call anything but a ghost. He stares at the figure, trying to ignore the way that familiar silhouette makes his blood run cold. He's not interested in playing nice anymore. He wants to know who the real threat is. If the exorcists are coming for him anyway, he might as well start clearing his own path first. The hierarchy isn't just a social ladder, it's a death sentence. Crossing that line means making an enemy of the wrong kind of royalty. It isn't just about survival anymore, it's about extermination. The very power keeping him alive views his own kind as a plague that needs to be purged. The air doesn't just crack, it shatters. He feels the raw power of the key lashing out like a physical whip, tearing through the space around him. The presence is overwhelming, radiating an authority that feels both ancient and predatory. They need to know if this threat is just a stray spark or a calculated move by someone else in the game. He doesn't care about his life, only that he stops being a variable she has to account for. She's cutting the dead weight out of her plans to clear the path for whatever comes next. The weight of the pact settles in. He's being told he has freedom, but it's the kind of freedom that only exists within the cage of their goals. The bargain is laid out with cold, absolute clarity. It's not an invitation, it's a sentence that defines his new life as the ultimate prize in a very dangerous game. He cuts the conversation short, leaving no room for negotiation. It's a cold reminder that some secrets are meant to stay buried. The air in the room is heavy enough to choke on. She's staring him down, waiting for him to admit how much of his soul he's already traded away for that power. He's trying to sell him on the hope of a normal life, but they both know the truth. The weight of that promise is heavy because it means there's still something worth fighting for. The promise is absolute. He isn't just making an oath, he's sealing it into the very fabric of their reality. He's finally pushing back against the exhaustion of the night. She gives him a curt nod, acknowledging the heavy toll his new reality just took. He's barely holding it together, but the weight of the debt is real. He knows he wouldn't be standing here without that intervention. He knows he's barely clinging to some semblance of humanity right now. The realization hits hard. He isn't just lucky to be alive, he's becoming something else entirely. She offers a rare moment of grace, but it feels more like a tactical retreat than a kindness. He knows better, the peace is temporary and the hunt is just beginning. The cage isn't just in front of him, it's becoming part of his reality. Every breath feels like it's being squeezed through iron bars, and he can barely tell where his skin ends and the prison begins. He tries to find his voice, even if it feels like it's being swallowed by the distance. One last desperate reach for the life he left behind before the transformation took hold. The silence is broken by a sudden, jarring question. They're both caught in that split second of pure panic when you realize someone, or something, is standing just on the other side of the wood. The reality hits like a physical blow. She's gone, leaving nothing but empty air and the chilling silence of the city. The pieces are finally clicking into place. He can feel it now. The hidden logic of his new existence isn't just a burden anymore, it's the only truth he has left. He's spiraling, his voice cracking as he tries to play it cool. He knows the truth is slipping through the cracks of his stuttering defense. He leans into the nostalgia, trying to sell a version of himself that didn't have monsters lurking in the shadows. It's a desperate attempt to ground the moment in something human before the reality of their situation sets back in. He catches himself mid-sentence, the sudden shift in tone making it clear that just talking about normal things isn't enough anymore. He needs to know if the news has reached them, if they even understand how much the stakes have changed. The mention of the peace bridge hits like a physical weight. He's realizing that the destruction isn't just some random accident. It's a clear, chilling breadcrumb left behind by something else. The truth isn't just a secret anymore, it's hitting every screen in the city. They can't hide what's happening out in the open. The secret isn't just a whisper in the shadows anymore, it's hitting every screen in the city. The collapse isn't just a structural failure, it's an invitation for something else to crawl out of the water. The authorities are sealing off the perimeter, but they have no idea what kind of monster they're trying to contain. The official line is always some pathetic lie to keep the public from panicking. They're calling it an accident, but we know exactly what kind of explosion just tore through this block. The whispers are starting to get louder, turning a private nightmare into a public headline. He just wants people to keep their heads down and stay safe while he deals with the monster inside him. The numbers are finally starting to climb, but the pressure is mounting. They need this crowd to show up, not just for a show, but to prove that all this grinding wasn't for nothing. The weight of it all is finally sinking in. The cost of staying alive isn't just physical pain anymore. He can feel the parasite's influence creeping deeper into his bones with every breath he takes. He clenches his fist until his knuckles ache, trying to ground himself against the rising tide of noise inside his head. He can't let it take over yet. He has to stay in control of the weapon. He's trying to sell himself on the lie that he's still in control. It's a desperate mantra against the noise inside his head. The stakes just hit a new level of reality. This isn't a drill anymore. It's time to see if they can actually handle what's coming next. The early morning air is heavy with frustration. He's already over the grueling schedule and the constant demands of their new reality. The pressure is building. He needs to lock in now because the competition from across the country is about to hit them like a freight train. The words hang heavy in the air, confirming that the game is moving forward. They're finally getting their marching orders. The higher-ups are getting twitchy. They think the others are moving, and it means our window for a quiet approach just slammed shut. She doesn't hide the disdain in her voice. Making it that obvious was a rookie mistake he couldn't afford. The reality of their wasted effort is starting to sink in. They were playing a game of hide-and-seek while the clock was ticking toward a total collapse. The moment of no return. He's finally making the connection, stepping out of the shadows and into the digital fray. The monitors hum with raw power, casting a dual glow over the command center. Every flicker on these screens marks another step toward the truth of the hunt. The formal pleasantries are over. It's time to cut through the noise and get to the actual threat. The stakes just shifted from local survival to a global game of chess. They aren't just trading intel anymore. They're bringing in heavy hitters to map out the next move. The atmosphere is heavy with the weight of an impending operation. He keeps his voice steady as he addresses the group, acknowledging that the real work begins now. He lays out the grim reality of what they've captured. The leverage they've just gained is about to change everything for everyone involved. He's watching the screen, his face twisting as the truth finally sinks in. It's not just a game anymore. He's about to see exactly what that monster did. The cameras are rolling, and every word he says is being logged by the system. He needs to play his cards right if he wants any hope of walking out of this room alive. He isn't just making a threat, he's laying out the terms of engagement. One lie and he becomes the target. He's cornered, desperate to trade a piece of his past just to make the pressure stop. He's about to spill the one secret he's been forced to keep. The pressure is starting to warp his vision. Every breath feels like he's inhaling glass just to keep the parasite from taking over. He's barely holding it together, every muscle twitching from the strain of the surge. Someone calls out to him, but he can't find the words to answer. The metallic tang of copper fills the air as he tries to catch his breath. One word is all he can manage, but it's lost in the blood pooling in his throat. The pain isn't just physical anymore. It feels like his very identity is being shredded by the parasite inside him. He's barely clinging to consciousness as the reality of his transformation hits home. The adrenaline is bottoming out, leaving nothing but the copper taste of blood and the heavy weight of his own pulse. He needs this to end before the parasite takes back what's left of his mind. The warning is blunt. They're making it clear that just uttering that specific name triggered a total collapse of the situation. The realization hits like a physical blow, turning his breath into something jagged and hard to swallow. Something just changed, and he can feel it clawing at the back of his mind. The weight of it is starting to settle in. It's not just the power, it's the realization that there's no going back to being normal. He's done playing nice with the truth. He doesn't need words to explain the cost of survival anymore, he just needs to show them. The thing didn't just sit in his throat, it turned his very breath into a weapon of jagged metal. He had no way to scream, and even less of a chance at surviving it. They might see these entities as gods, but it's a death sentence just to utter their names. One slip of the tongue and you aren't just a victim, you're a target. The transition was messy, but it forced a shift in strategy. They're finally moving forward with a plan that actually works. He plays it cool, projecting a sense of confidence that hides the turmoil underneath. He's trying to keep everyone's spirits up while he prepares for what comes next. He's barely hanging on, but his survival is the only thing keeping this investigation moving. They made it easy for him. They gave him just enough of a lifeline to keep him talking. He treats this little stray like it's some high-stakes asset, but he knows the truth. It's not just a pet, it's a piece of home that shouldn't have made it out alive. He views the situation like a game of chess where every piece has a price. Time to see what these captives are actually hiding. She gives him a sharp warning to keep his mouth shut during the interrogation. He's clearly spiraling, but he needs to play the part of the silent victim if they want him to make it out alive. The pressure is mounting until it feels like his skull might crack from the sheer weight of the power. He's barely holding onto his grip on reality as the parasite tries to claw its way out. She leans in with a sharp, mocking grin that doesn't reach her eyes. She's playing a game of chicken with his sanity, and she knows exactly how much pressure it takes to make the thing inside him snap. The parasite isn't just sitting behind his eyes anymore, it's starting to take root. He can feel its presence blooming like a fever, turning his very vision into something alien. They aren't just looking for clues, they're hunting for any trace of who built these things. Every stitch and scuff on those boots tells a story of someone moving through the shadows. He can feel the parasite clawing at the back of his mind, demanding more than he's willing to give. Every breath feels heavy, like his lungs are struggling against the very power that keeps him alive. He isn't just testing his resolve, she's stripping away every safety net he has left. One wrong word now and this deal, his only lifeline, vanishes instantly. This is where it all began, the home I'm trying to hold on to before everything else gets stripped away. They're digging for a motive now, trying to peel back the layers of why he stayed in Derry. He keeps his face like stone, knowing every word he says is a gamble against their suspicion. He can feel the parasite clawing at his insides, demanding every ounce of his focus just to stay conscious. One more push, if he lets go now, the thing inside him wins. She presses for specifics, digging into the motives of the group. She wants to know exactly what they're building toward, a goal, an event, anything that gives them a purpose beyond just existing. The weight of the parasite is starting to sink in. Every breath feels like a negotiation with something that doesn't care if he survives the night. One final choice. Give them a date they can use, and they'll finally let you walk away with your life intact. The reality of the parasite's presence finally hits him like a physical blow. He can feel his identity slipping, replaced by something cold and hungry. He lays out the bargain with a crooked grin, making it clear that cooperation is the only way forward. He knows they're terrified, but he doesn't care if they like his methods as long as they play along. The weight of what just happened is starting to sink in. He can barely find enough air to scream, let alone fight back. The transaction is finished. He can finally let out a breath now that the exchange is complete. The deadline is set in stone now. There's no room for hesitation when the countdown actually starts. The moment of hesitation is over. She's done playing games and is ready to let the consequences land. The pressure is mounting as they pin him down on the specifics. He doesn't have to say much. The weight of what he knows about that man is already written all over his face. He keeps his voice steady, but the weight of what he's admitting hangs heavy in the air. It was barely a fight, but the fallout is going to be massive. He doesn't waste words on fluff. One look at those reflexes tells him everything he needs to know. This isn't a rookie, it's a veteran. If Nick is putting his reputation on the line for this, it has to be legitimate. He's starting to realize he can't afford to doubt the only lead they have left. The map is bleeding red, marking exactly where the targets are hiding. It's time to flood those sectors with every exorcist we have left. Derry is the primary target, but we aren't going all in just yet. We need to keep enough muscle in reserve for when things get ugly. The logistics of the hunt are being laid out with clinical precision. They need eyes on the ground before they commit to a full-scale strike. The goodbye is final. They're sending us out into the meat grinder with nothing but prayers and a grim sense of duty. He cuts the connection with a flat tone, his voice heavy with the weight of the transition. He's done talking, now it's time to hunt. He cuts the line with a sharp finality. The transmission is over, now the hunt begins. Someone else wants a piece of the conversation before Nick can even open his mouth. The atmosphere is heavy with the weight of an agenda they aren't ready to share. He stands like a wall of granite, eyes scanning for any crack in his resolve. He doesn't need to say much. The sheer weight of his presence says everything about the stakes of this meeting. The ultimatum is clear. There's another one out there, and they aren't going to share the space. You can feel the pressure building as the hunter's focus narrows onto your location. He offers those final words of comfort, his voice barely steady against the weight of what's coming. He knows the truth. The safety of the home they once shared is already slipping away. The realization hits like a physical weight. They didn't just get lucky with a few tickets, they own every seat in the house. The sheer scale of what they're facing is starting to sink in. Even just thinking about the numbers makes his stomach turn. The weight of the revelation hits him like a physical blow. He's trying to process the cost of survival, but every thought just makes the pressure in his skull spike. He leans in close, his smile playing on the edge of something unsettling. He's not just helping, he's making it clear that this transition is no longer optional. He's shaking off the exhaustion, forcing his mind to stay sharp despite the weight of the transformation. It's a desperate mantra, the only thing keeping him from collapsing under the pressure. He's not backing down from the grind, even if it means pushing his limits until the final second. He just wants to make sure his partner stays sharp enough to survive what's coming next. He leans back, letting out a breath that says he's reached his limit for now. He'll be ready when the time comes. He just needs a moment to catch his breath first. The realization hits like a physical blow, cracking his composure. He can feel the weight of the secret pressing against his skull, making it impossible to look away. The sheer scale of it hits him all at once. He can feel the power coiling inside, demanding he acknowledge what he's become. The quiet of the night feels heavy, like it's holding its breath. It's the kind of silence that happens right before something breaks. She keeps it professional, but there's a weight to her words that suggests this isn't just a casual check-in. He can feel the gravity of the situation shifting as they step deeper into the unknown. She doesn't have time for pleasantries or long explanations. This isn't just a warning, it's an ultimatum that changes everything. He can barely process the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Everything just changed, and he's trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding before him. He can feel the weight of the power settling into his bones like lead. It's not just strength, it's an invasive presence that demands he stay sharp. The weight of the choice hangs in the air like a physical burden. It's a final apology before everything changes forever. He hits his limit and just collapses into the dirt. Everything he was trying to hold together is falling apart in an instant. He can't wrap his head around the reality of it. If they're coming for his show, he's not just a target anymore, he's a headline. She keeps her voice low, keeping things grounded in reality for now. Even if she doesn't have all the answers, she has to give him something to hold on to. He's looking for any crack in the narrative, any sign that this isn't just another show. If something big is coming, he needs to know exactly what it looks like before it hits. They've been digging in for months, and we're finally seeing them move. This is our only shot at finishing this nightmare once and for all. The weight of the apology hangs heavy in the air. He knows there's no taking back what just happened. She keeps her voice steady, trying to anchor him with a promise that feels like a desperate lie. She needs him to believe they can keep everyone safe, even if she's not sure how. They're selling him on the safety net, but he can feel the lie in their voice. They promise reinforcements are coming, yet everything feels like a setup for something worse. The heavy hitters are finally moving into position. This isn't just a drill anymore, it's the moment of truth they've been grinding for. He doesn't care about the excuses anymore. Everyone is walking into a death trap. He has to make them understand the stakes before someone ends up as a casualty. The realization hits like a physical blow. It's not just a few targets, it's everyone caught in the crossfire. The hit lands with a sickening thud, barely giving him time to register the pain. He just has to stay upright. The impact leaves his lungs feeling like they've been crushed flat. He can barely manage to keep his jaw set as the dust settles over him. The weight of his choice sits heavy in the air, turning the silence into an accusation. He can't even look up to face the truth of what he's allowed to happen. She knows the stakes are high. They can't just sit back and watch the threat grow. They have to let these things show their hand first, then strike while they're vulnerable. The words hit like a physical blow, heavy with the weight of a choice he never wanted to make. They're calling it the greater good, but all he feels is the cold reality of the sacrifice. He's desperate now, his voice cracking as he tries to bridge the gap between what they want and what he can offer. He doesn't care about the cost anymore. He just wants to be a shield for them. The weight of the transformation is settling in. It's not just the power he feels, it's the realization that his old life is officially gone. He grits his teeth against the mental noise of the entity. It's not just power, it's a heavy, suffocating weight that settles in every bone. He watches her struggle, trying to gauge just how much of this training she can actually take. The pressure is mounting, and he needs to know if she's still in there with him. He's trying to keep his composure, but the weight of what's coming is starting to settle in. He knows there's no turning back from tonight. He offers her some reassurance, even if he doesn't fully believe it himself. He knows that for most of them, the silence between the chaos is a luxury they can't afford to take for granted. He plays it cool with a practiced grin, masking the internal chaos. He's just bracing himself for the inevitable hit. He leans in, his voice steady despite the underlying tension of the mission ahead. It's time to get everyone on the same page before things go south. The stakes just hit a boiling point. One slip-up now means there's no coming back from this. The coordinates are locked. It's time to move. The scope of the threat is massive. It isn't just one point they have to worry about. The whole damn city is a hunting ground. The situation just got a lot more volatile. They're being forced into a reactive stance, ready to move the second things go sideways. The venue is packed to capacity tonight. We're looking at hundreds of people inside, making this a high-stakes environment for whatever comes next. The announcement of the performance hangs in the air like an invitation into something bigger. These faces are all that's left before the noise of the crowd takes over. The fact that they're all in on this makes them a target for some very specific scrutiny. They're walking into a trap, and they don't even know it yet. The sheer volume of people is going to make screening impossible. They're flying blind into this crowd, and it's going to be a nightmare to sort through. He knows that keeping things separate is a fantasy now. If that guy shows up, he's going to have to deal with the fallout of their connection. He's starting to realize the truth isn't some abstract concept. It's a magnetic pull. Like attracts like, and in this game, that means he's never going to be alone for long. The numbers don't lie. They need to move fast if they want to keep the perimeter secure. There's no room for error when the clock is ticking like this. She doesn't blink, her focus locked on the mission ahead. She's ready to move heaven and earth just to get everyone through this alive. She's making it clear that this isn't just about their personal goals anymore. One slip now puts everyone else on the chopping block. The math is cold, but it's the only way to keep everyone else alive. He has to live with the weight of those lost lives every time he makes a call like this. They're going to move the moment they decide it's necessary. He knows the second they act, there's no more pretending, the game is officially live. The coordination isn't just a fluke, it's a calculated move that changes everything. They aren't just reacting anymore, they're organizing, and that makes them a massive threat. He feels the weight of the weapon in his hands, every nerve ending screaming for focus. It's time to stop doubting and start moving. He's searching for some scrap of certainty in the chaos. It's a desperate question when he's practically begging himself to believe. He absorbs the information, a silent acknowledgement of the stakes involved. It's time to stop questioning and start moving. She catches his gaze, and for a split second the air turns cold. That one word hangs in the space between them, a desperate plea to stop before everything breaks. The weight of the blade feels like it's tearing his muscles apart just to keep it steady. He can feel the power surging through his grip, not a gift, but a heavy, jagged burden he's forced to carry. The impact is deafening, everything just shatters. Something massive and alien is manifesting right in front of him. It doesn't feel like biology, it feels like a glitch in reality. The air cracks like glass under the pressure of the hit. He barely has time to register the impact before it sends everything spinning into chaos. He leans back with a chillingly casual air, as if he's just checking in rather than making an entrance. The tone isn't just mocking, it's a cold acknowledgement that they aren't the only ones on the battlefield. Everything goes silent, the world just stops. He plays it cool, but that smirk tells me he's already 3 steps ahead. He's not just talking, he's baiting them into a trap they can't see coming.